Well, good morning and welcome to City Hall. We're going to get started with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Tim Haynes is the pastor at Christ Family Church in South Oklahoma City. Thanks for coming down, Pastor. After he's done, I'll ask Councilwoman Salyer. She'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, but would everyone please stand?
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for the very breath that we feel in our lungs this morning. Lord, we thank you for your goodness and your mercy to us. Lord, you ask us to pray for our leaders and our principalities in this world. And Lord, we just come before you, God, and we ask you to bless the Honorable Mayor Cornett. Lord, we ask that you would touch these councilmen, Lord. You're the one that gives the honor to these people to be able to serve. And Lord, we pray for our city, for this government. Lord, we love you. We thank you that you give us wisdom and you give it to us liberally. So Lord, we thank you that you've heard our prayer this morning. We love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, each month, the South Oklahoma City Kiwanis Club helps us honor an Employee of the Month. And this month, we have two. And when you hear the story behind it, you'll understand why this is such an important moment for the city of Oklahoma City and our employee base. We have like 4,000 employees that work for the city of Oklahoma City. So to pick out one, or in this case two, is not an easy chore. And so it's quite an honor. It's the honor of a professional career. And I'm going to ask the two young men to come up that are going to share this award, Patrick McMasters and Tony Whitlock from our Utilities Department. Come on up, guys. How about a round of applause? And these guys went above and beyond. We have a resolution. I'll ask the clerk to read it, and then we'll hear more about the story that goes behind this award.
Whereas Patrick McMasters has been a city employee for 1 year and is a Facilities and Plant Mechanic 2 for the Wastewater Quality Division of the Utilities Department. Whereas Patrick makes minor and major repairs on equipment, machinery, and components, and performs routine inspections and preventative maintenance. Patrick is responsible for providing practical training and physical demonstration of job tasks to Mechanic 1 employees. Whereas Tony Whitlock has been a city employee for 19 years and is a Facilities and Plant Mechanic Supervisor for the Wastewater Quality Division of the Utilities Department. Whereas Tony supervises the maintenance and repair of the lift station facilities and machinery, oversees emergency call-outs and repairs, maintains equipment and supply inventories, and compiles data for work activity reports. Whereas on December 5th, 2016, Patrick saw a young woman crying and sitting on the edge of a bridge near I-40 in Eastern. Patrick and Tony, fearing the woman may jump, pulled over and ran to assist. Patrick and Tony took the time to talk to the woman and managed to get her to come down from the bridge and to safety. Whereas Patrick and Tony reacted quickly to the situation and helped save the woman's life. Whereas this council desires to recognize Patrick McMasters and Tony Whitlock for their dedication, professionalism, and commitment to the residents of the city of Oklahoma City. Now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and council of the city of Oklahoma City that they do hereby thank and commend Patrick McMasters and Tony Whitlock, March 2017 South Oklahoma City Kiwanis Club Employee of the Month.
How about a round of applause, you guys? Don't go anywhere yet. Technically, we have to vote on this. I'm thinking this may be a unanimous vote, but we'll have to wait and see, so the suspense continues. Is there a motion on this item? And a second? All right, cast your votes. All right, congratulations. You know, the truth is, in our city, we have these 3 interstate highways, and as we know, not just tens of thousands, but hundreds of thousands of people pass through these on a weekly basis. And this young woman was traveling with her companion, and some sort of domestic issue emerged in the car. He got out, she got out, he drove off, and she winds up on a bridge ready to end her life. And fortunately, these guys show up just in time. So how about a round of applause for these 2 guys? Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Yeah, thank you, guys. I'm not sure how the rest of the council meeting is going to follow that, but we will do our best. Let these guys get back to work. We're also here today to honor our bus drivers. And so I know we have let's see, just a sample of the quality bus drivers that we have in our community today. So why don't we bring up everybody? Yeah, just bring everybody up that's here today. We have Lee and Michael, Chris, and Linda, and of course, Jason, if you watch City Hall meetings, is a regular up here. You know, I get a lot of compliments from the citizens who interact with our bus drivers. And, you know, you can't stress enough to your employees, if a person has an unhappy or an irritable bus driver, pretty good chance they're not going to ride the bus again, at least if they have another option. And so, you know, the professionalism, the courtesy, the cheerfulness of our bus drivers really is important to continuing to drive the people that will choose public transit. And our numbers keep going up and up and up. We keep expanding routes. And so, you know, there will be a day when we'll figure out how to get a dedicated funding source and really expand public transit in central Oklahoma. But until then, we're relying on these people to continue to inch our way forward and try to create a city where people don't feel like they have to own an automobile, or people feel like they can reach out to public transit that'll get them safely to where they want to go. So this is Transit Bus Operators Appreciation Day across the country, and we've chosen this day to to honor this small group of bus drivers, but know that they represent a much larger group. And we have a proclamation. I'll ask the clerk to read it.
Whereas the embarked bus operators help drive the Oklahoma City community forward, each manages a vehicle for hours, keeping to a schedule, checking fares, giving directions, and handling stop requests. Whereas the role of embarked bus operators is integral to the transportation of residents and visitors to the many neighborhoods, business districts, and entertainment and recreation destinations across Oklahoma City. The duties of an embarked bus operator are to safely maneuver an extra-large vehicle through unpredictable traffic, tough weather conditions, and very tight spaces, while exercising caution and following the laws of the road to maximize the safety of the passengers. Whereas embarked bus operators serve as upstanding examples of safety, courtesy, discipline, and effective communication as they perform their duties each and every day. Whereas on an annual basis, over 100 bus operators travel in excess of 2.8 million miles and provide more than 3 million passenger trips in the greater Oklahoma City area. Now therefore, Mick Cornett, the mayor of the city of Oklahoma City, does hereby proclaim March 17th as Transit Bus Operator Appreciation Day in Oklahoma City.
All right, let's show our appreciation to our bus drivers. And I'm going to let Jason tell you more about our system, and we continue to try and encourage more people to get on the bus and ride.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. We're honored with this proclamation today. And yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be able to share with you a little bit about ridership on the embarked bus system and the growth we've seen over the last few years. And for those that aren't familiar, you know, our bus operators provide between 11 to 12,000 passenger trips per day. And so, you know, folks like Jesse here and Lee, that's a lot of direct interaction, face-to-face interaction with our community each and every day. As part of Bus Operator Appreciation Day, we also always try to recognize our maintenance staff. They're the behind-the-scenes individuals that are the ones that are responsible for keeping the buses on the road in a safe condition. They're the ones that are responsible for maintaining and cleaning our transit facilities. That's a big part of transit. That's a big part of the customer experience that we want to promote here in Oklahoma City. And so we just appreciate what they do each and every day for our community and appreciate this proclamation.
Thank you, guys. Let's show our appreciation one more time. Thanks. We're on item 3 of the council agenda. Item 3B through F is a series of appointments. I'll look for a motion. All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 4 is the Journal of Council Proceedings. 4A is to receive the journal for February 28th, and 4B is to approve the journal for February 14th. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on the journal? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. And item 5 is request for uncontested continuances.
Mayor, this morning they start on page 16 under item 9I1. Item E, 1619 North Pennsylvania, we ask that be stricken. The owner secured. Item H, 2605 Northwest 2nd Street, we ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item L, 3313 Northeast 14th Street, we ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Moving to page 17, item Q, 125 Southwest 24th. We ask that be stricken. The owner secured. Item R, 1933 Northeast 26th Street. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item T, 717 Southwest 32nd Street. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item V, 1804 Northeast 53rd Street. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Moving on to 9J1, item E, 2605 Northwest 2nd Street. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item I, 3313 Northeast 14th Street. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item N, 1955 Northeast 26th Street. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item O, 717 Southwest 32nd Street. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. And finally, item R, 1804 Northeast 53rd Street. We ask that be stricken. Again, the owner has secured.
All right, any other requests for uncontested continuances? Item 6 is a series of revocable permits. The first one is a request to hold the Glow Run at Stars and Stripes Park, and this is the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust that's holding this event. Anybody here representing the Water Utilities Trust? Yeah, okay, Pete. Pete, tell us about the Glow Run at Stars and Stripes Park.
Say I knew anything about the glow.
Okay. Well, why don't you make a motion then? And
I think I'll move that it's approved.
all right, and I'll take that as you're going to enter. All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. It passed unanimously. Item 6B is a request. Let's see, the Oklahoma City National Memorial Foundation holding the Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon. I think we've heard of that event. Is anyone here representing the marathon? Yeah, come on up. It's on April 30th this year.
Correct.
Tell us more about the event.
So we're heading towards the 17th annual race, something we work hard year-round and look forward to year-round. I think it's something that the people of the city really care about and take pride in. It's also something that's very necessary for operating the Memorial Museum. We're on pace to break 25,000 runners. We're very appreciative of working with the city and having backing from corporate sponsors that make this happen. We've got a few new things. We've got a new app for one. We've got an Oklahoma Standard stretch, which we're adding along Classen. That'll start at 9:03 and kind of go through the history after the bombing, the rebuilding of the city and sort of the resilience that we showed. Also, we're moving the kids marathon finish line to Kerr Park. One of the many things that we're doing.
Very exciting. Over 25,000 participants. How can people be a
Hopefully
part
so.
of this?
They can go online at okcmarathon.com and register. They can also, if they choose to volunteer, they can volunteer there. They can sign up other people, join relays. I hope to see many of you there, April 30th, start line.
All right, and this is an event that goes through wards 1, 2, 6, and 8. So how about a motion from one of those four? All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes on item 6B. Passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good luck. Item 6C is a request from the Oklahoma City Dodgers to hold the OKC Dodgers Community Run. That'll be March 25th. Anybody here representing the team? Yeah, come on up. Hi, and Jennifer, what is your name and address for the record?
My name is Jennifer Van Tile. I'm the managing director of the OKC Dodgers Baseball Foundation, and my address is 2 South Mickey Mantle Drive.
All right, tell us about this community run.
So the community run, actually unity is emphasized in community, and this is an initiative that was launched by minor league baseball last August across the country for all 160 plus teams to do. So we decided to carry on the initiative, and our run will benefit the foundation and the Police Athletic League. So we're going to have runners with the Police Athletic League at the event. There is a 1K, a 5K, and a kids run, and the run starts on Mickey Mantle, goes through Bricktown, and then we'll finish on the field.
Okay, and how can people get involved?
They can go to okcdodgers.com to register.
All right, sounds like fun. How about a motion? All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 6D is a right-of-way permit. And again, this is the National Memorial Foundation to hold the marathon. How is this different from the other one?
The first one was on Water Trust property, so that was this is in the right-of-way. So we've got one with the city for their activities in the right-of-way, and a separate one with the Water Trust for their activities on the Lake Reservation property.
Okay. Well, Zach, probably not a good reason for you to come back up and tell us about the Memorial Marathon again. So how about a motion on item 6D? All right, cast your votes. It passed unanimously. Thanks. We'll recess the council meeting, convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority. Is there a motion on the MFA? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. We'll adjourn the OCMFA, convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority. Is there a motion on the PPA? All right, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. We'll adjourn the OCPPA, convene as the Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust. Just the claims and payroll today. All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. We'll adjourn the OCEAT and reconvene the council meeting with the consent docket. All right, we have a motion and a second. Are there any individual considerations?
Mayor, I'd like to ask if we could pull out item 7AB.
All right.
Vote on that separately.
We'll vote on item 7AB separately.
And I also would like to speak about 7Z.
Z. All right, why don't you jump in and go ahead and talk about Z.
Alrighty, thank you. 7Z are the plans for the second phase of the Will Rogers Trail. This is part of our MAPS project, and it's the section that runs along State Fair Park and actually will go down to the river. So we've got most of the work done on phase 1, and we're moving into phase 2. There is a third phase that will complete this trail. That's
Very exciting.
Very exciting for the western part of downtown.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you for drawing attention to that. All right, we have a motion and a second. I'll consider that to be for the consent docket except for 7AB. So everybody want to vote on the rest of the docket? It passes unanimously. Now I'll need a motion on 7AB. All right, we have a motion and a second on 7AB. Yeah.
I'd like to comment on, there was another companion item that went with the rest of the docket that I'd just like to make a comment on. You know, in many cities, streetcars like the one we're building, the people that are along the streetcar route pay a fee to have it go by their property, as opposed to us having to pay thousands of dollars in easements. I just wanted to point that out. This is just another difference in the way we're doing it and the way other people are doing it, and I don't think it's a good, I think we probably should have thought through this better on the front side. I was there on the front side. I'll take my part of that blame for that. But I think in many cities, the support for the streetcar is put along those people that are expected to benefit the most from it, and that is the businesses that are along the route. And I didn't mean to pull this one out. I didn't realize it would be pulled out separately because of the situation with Meg. There's another item on it just like this. I just wanted to point that out. If we do an expansion of the streetcar in the future, it would seem to me that it would be well for us to think about the possibility of having those people that benefit directly financially from the streetcar participate in the extension. And we just didn't think about it the first time.
Okay.
I've said that twice, right?
All right.
That's
Voting on item 7AB. Passes unanimously. It's a good point, though. All right, we move on to the concurrence docket. Is there a motion here? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any individual comments or questions about the concurrence? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9 is items that require a separate vote, and we'll start with a series of zoning cases. The first is an ABC issue in Ward 4. The address is 1112 Southeast 44th Street. Pete?
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this morning?
No one has turned in a request to speak.
I'd move approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We're voting on item 9A1. It passes unanimously. Item 9A2 is a zoning case in Ward 4 at 737 Southeast 89th Street. It's currently I2 moderate industrial, and it would become a new C3 community commercial district. Pete?
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this? The young man who represents this thing has contacted me a number of times, and very early in our conversations, he told me he used to work with Councilman Griner. I did my very best not to hold that against him, and I'm going to move approval. This is really a nice project. It's an old facility that is going to be reused for a church, and it's a good project. So I move approval.
Okay, if we vote, you look like you were heading for the microphone. I would just take the vote right now. Okay. All right, cast your votes.
He didn't want to talk.
It passes unanimously.
Thank you so much.
You bet. All right, we're on item 9A3. This is also a request in Ward 4, and this has to do with Plaza Mayor Boulevard, and it's a zoning change. Pete?
We had previously approved another item on this thing earlier that the people were unable to get into the facility in time, and now it's back again, virtually the same as it was before, but has to be renewed. So I'd move approval. It's a nice addition to all the activity that's going on at Plaza Mayor.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Anyone here hoping to speak on item 9A3? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9A4 is a zoning case in Ward 6 at 1435 Southwest 22nd Street. The property would go from R3 medium density to a new spud. Meg?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this is a recommendation to bring up existing property, longstanding property, into conformity with the zoning requirements. The applicant agreed to the TEs that were requested. There were no protests, and this is a very unusual area, completely surrounded by apartments and residential, and it's a small convenience store on the corner. I would recommend approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Anyone here hoping to speak on item 9A4? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. And item 9A5 is a zoning case in Ward 3 at 12520 Northwest 10th Street. Is there anyone here hoping to speak on this item? How about a motion from council? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9B is a special permit request. This has to do with Quail Springs Mall and Lifetime Fitness. And Mark?
This is the applicant.
Okay, the applicant has indicated that if there are questions that he is here to speak on them.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an ordinance on final hearing. It's recommended for approval. There's no protest. I've done some research into Lifetime Fitness. They have 122 facilities in 26 states. with 11 new locations on the board, and they boast that they have premium amenities in a resort-like setting. And so this will be a big enhancement for the mall and to fill that Macy's space. So I'd move approval.
All right, cast your votes on 9B. It passes unanimously. Item 9C deals with easements and right-of-ways and some closings of such. We'll take these individually. Item 9C1 affects Northwest 59th Street and Ward 7. Is there anyone here hoping to speak on this item? All right, how about a motion on 9C1? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9C2 is in Ward 6. Meg?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. These are a couple of closings of a platted park line. And I did check with Bob Taylor's office to be sure that none of these would be in any way have an impact on the streetcar route that's proposed in the area, and they will not affect the streetcar. There were no protests, and the purpose of this is to redevelop and improve parking, driveways, and sidewalks in an area that very much needs it. So I would move approval.
All right, we're voting on 9C2. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9C3 is a zoning issue in Ward 2. Ed? No, it's not a zoning issue. It's to close a utility easement.
Anybody sign up to speak?
No.
Move for approval.
All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. And item 9C4 is to close an easement in Ward 8. Mark?
Yes, this is an ordinance on final hearing. It's to allow construction across the common lot line. There's no protest. I move approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We're voting on item 9C4. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9D is a series of items that come to us from the Traffic Commission. The first has to do with some angled parking that's proposed in Ward 2 on Willow Springs Avenue. Ed, you okay with this?
I am. I move for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second on item 9D1. Anyone here hoping to speak on this item? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9D2 is also in Ward 2, and this has to do with a parking space for the physically disabled.
Move for approval.
Cast your votes on 9D2. It passes unanimously. Item 9D3 is a parking issue in Ward 7. Is there a motion to push this forward? All right. Anyone here hoping to speak on this item? All right. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. And item 9D4 is also a parking issue in Ward 7. Did anyone show up to speak on that item? All right. How about a motion? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. All right, item 9E was introduced to us last meeting. This has to do with the payments that go into hotels and motels. We have a couple of people that have showed up to speak. Jeff Penner. Good morning, Jeff. We'll need your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Jeff Penner, 1496 East Interstate Drive, Norman, Oklahoma. On behalf of the Oklahoma City Hotel Association and our member hotels, I'd like to thank the mayor and members of the council for the opportunity to speak this morning. Let me start by saying that our industry has the greatest respect for City Treasurer Bob Ponkilla and Lori and Matt with his office, but on this issue we must respectfully disagree. Our reasons are this. Why is our industry being singled out? If we have to pay, then shouldn't every other dollar that comes in by credit card to the city also be charged? Here's what I found out. I spoke with Marissa yesterday in the water department. She tells me that there is no credit card fee for any individual, any citizen of this city that wishes to pay their water bill by a credit card. I then called the Civic Center and spoke with Ambria, and I inquired if I rented the Hall of Mirrors with a full bar and catering, and I decided to pay with my credit card, would I be charged a credit card processing fee? She said no. I then called the city's Lincoln Golf Course and spoke with Jason. I inquired if I rented the banquet hall. They have a very nice banquet hall there. It goes for $200 an hour. I said, if I decided to rent that banquet hall with all the extras and decided to pay by my credit card, would I be charged a credit card processing fee? He said no. I said, what if I went into the pro shop and bought something? Credit card fee there? No. How about green fees? Again, the answer is no. You know, we hear many times that government should be run like a business. Well, the term cost of doing business certainly applies here. Our hotels don't have a separate line charge for our guests when they decide to pay by credit card. Walmart doesn't charge a credit card processing fee when we go through the line at Walmart. Our society is becoming a checkless, cashless society, and to be penalized with this fee is of great concern to us. You know, I'm not for sure also where the 2.2% proposed fee comes from. The industry standard for us is 1.2 to 1.5%, so I don't know exactly where the extra 1% is coming from. On behalf of our industry, I again want to thank you for your time and consideration. We just simply ask that you please make it fair across the board and not single out our industry. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thanks, Jeff. And Mr. Patel? Good morning.
Good morning, Council. My name is Bhavesh Patel. I'm a local hotel owner here in Oklahoma City. And Jeff made some great points regarding the hotel tax collection. I'd also like to add on to that. Although the city does not see a major decrease in the hotel tax collection, individually at our hotels, revenues are down throughout the city. Demand does not meet the influx of supply in the market. We have hotels going up all throughout the city right now, and more rooms are coming into the market. Allowing us to pay with the credit card without the fees will give us some leeway to pay the taxes while we wait for revenues to increase and for demand to catch up with supply. Another point I'd like to make is that we also collect hotel tax from our customers, regardless of if they are paying with cash or credit card, and the majority of our customers are paying with credit card. We also pay those credit card fees already.
Okay.
But thank you for your time.
You bet. Thank you.
I think Craig Freeman can respond to part of that.
All right.
I'd first like to say that Mr. Penner and Mr. Patel are great partners with the city. The hotels I represent do a great job with us, and so there aren't any issues there. And so they've worked with us as we developed our online app and been great partners in this, and we understand their concern. The reason we're able to do this with the hotel tax, and we can't with other transactions, is because it's specifically provided in state law that we're allowed to be able to do this with a tax. It's something similar to what's provided by the tax commission when if you pay sales tax with a credit card, and so it's similar to the process that's used by the tax commission. The 2.22%, we took an average of just the credit card fees as well as our credit card processor fee. The average cost was about 2.4% last year. We went a little bit below that just to make sure that we're not charging over what we're being charged for the processing. And right now, the way the process works is the credit card fees are paid through the general fund because that's where we manage those contracts. So that's paid through the general fund, and then all of the hotel tax is going into the hotel tax fund. So this doesn't produce more revenue into the hotel tax fund. It's really just there to cover our costs, and we've actually calculated where, based on last year, we covered just a little bit less than our costs. So it's something that's allowed by state law specifically because it's a collection of a tax as opposed to providing a service, and it's something similar to what the tax commission does.
Well, what's the typical method of payment in this situation?
So they can pay by check.
Right.
And there's not an additional charge for that. There's also, if they're using the online system, they have the ability to sign up for ACH payments, which is an electronic payment. Doesn't cost them more, doesn't cost us more, and so there's no fee on that we're charging, and so that's another way that they can pay. I would say more often, most of them I'd say are by ACH at this point, but we do get, majority of them are through ACH and check. We're just seeing more and more of that being charged on credit cards, and so as those costs are going up in our general fund, we want to make sure we're offsetting that cost because we have the ability to do that.
Okay. Well, this is a public hearing, no vote today on the actual issue, so it gives the council something to think about over the next couple of weeks. Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else want to show up and speak on the public hearing? All right. Do we need to vote on this just to move the public hearing forward?
It's just a public hearing.
All right. We'll move on then to item 9F, and this is an item that's being introduced today, and Dick Mahoney is here to explain more.
Dick Mahoney, Municipal Counselor's Office. Our firefighters, our pension is through participation with the state firefighters' pension retirement system. The state law provided a sunset provision for local boards where a local municipality can have a local pension board to process applications for retirement of firefighters. The legislature passed a sunset provision for those local boards to expire on December 31st, 2016, unless the local city firefighters petition the firefighter to have an election to retain the board. Our firefighters did not petition the chief, so no election was held, and by law, our pension board expired. This ordinance will remove that from our ordinance so there's no conflict or appearance that we have a local board when we do not. All the duties of the local board are assumed by the executive director of the state firefighters pension system.
All right. This item has been introduced today. Its public hearing has been set for March 28th. Final adoption scheduled on April 11th.
Could
Any
I ask
comments
a
or
question?
questions? Yeah, Pete.
What impact would that have on an individual firefighter, one way or the other? I mean, I see that they had an opportunity to petition the chief and they didn't do it, but
Practically none. It was basically a conduit for them to the state firefighter pension board.
Okay.
That's right. The board would review the applications for retirement for individual firefighters and make a recommendation to the state pension board, who would then take our recommendation and either approve it or modify it or deny it.
It was simply a recommendation.
Yeah.
was there, do you know of any cases where they recommended against the retiree, proposed retiree?
Oh, sure. There have been almost all situations where, particularly with disability retirements, where not enough information was sent or not information that wasn't sufficient, we would recommend against
but the same protection, whatever would be provided to a firefighter at the state level?
Yes, yes. They'll have the same protections they've always had. The state board always had the final say.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Dick. Item 9G is the issuance of our bonds. Do we have a rating? Do we have a rating? Oh, we need a motion on 9F. Okay. 9F, motion? That, cast your votes. All right, that item is accepted into the books.
Yeah, the sale is actually in 2 weeks. It's on the 28th, but Craig's here with a little bit of an update.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll have the sale on the 28th. We'll come back at that time. It will be a competitive sale, so we'll be getting the bids. We've gone through this process before. We'll get the bids that morning, postpone the item until we can get through processing and checking those bids, and then bring that item back to you as soon as we get all the information together. We did get good news, though, from both Standard & Poor's and Moody's that we were affirmed with our AAA ratings, which was very reassuring. It's a very positive thing for us. It does put us in a position to be able to move forward and have the best rates that we can achieve on those sales. Helps us to be able to do more projects. So it's very positive news. We'll be sending out some information on that. Moody's did keep our negative outlook, and just noted that, you know, that continued pressure that we've seen in our sales tax from just slowness within our economy, that's something they want to continue to monitor, and our ability to be able to manage within our budget to ensure that we're not drawing down too far on fund balance.
And I really want to compliment the council, because that's a big part of it, is the council
Absolutely.
isn't pushing us to do strange things. They're not asking us to use one-time monies for operations and to do some things outside of the standard business practices. And because of that, they really do look at that. If there's anything that's a little funny, they really look at our use of fund balance and what our fund balance processes are and where we're at on the fund balance and all of our things. The OPEB liability and how we've changed and managed that recently. Our retirement systems and how those are in the city's retirement system is over 100% funded, and how that plays into it. And a lot of that are decisions that are made at this horseshoe that are able that allow us to keep this AAA rating.
Jim, I really hope the citizens understand how important that is. And given the climate that the state's in, 3 years in a row of revenue failures and all, for us to be able to maintain the highest bond rating is an extraordinary feat. And I know we all appreciate the compliment, but it goes to the staff. truly. It's really an amazing feat and allows us to borrow at a lower cost, have more money to invest in streets and roads and things, and the ripple effect is tremendous. You're really to be complimented.
It really is very positive, and also is a challenge to us then to make sure that we remain, diligent about monitoring those funds, managing those funds, and while we see the revenues down, that we're managing expenses to bring them down in line with where the revenues are.
Can I ask a question in relation to Meg's point about the state? The state, I understand, got downgraded, right? So how are we able to escape their gravity? I mean, are we always considered independent from the state, or at some point are they going to, it does influence?
Economic climate influences. Excuse me, the state economic climate influences and the state operation does it. I really do believe that because of the lack of controversy and how well our budgeting process goes, and quite frankly, I think a very positive thing was the mid-year budget cuts. How we proactively responded to the budget situation mid-year this year, which lessens the impact of this year's budget as we go forward, was another thing. So I think a lot of it is not just having adversity, but how you respond to that adversity.
I'm frankly hopeful we don't get a cut. It seems to me that the way the state's managed itself, I read the material that put out by the governor's office about the cut, about their reduction and how long it had been. And in this kind of an environment, it's going to be very difficult, I think, for us to avoid a downgrade. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be very difficult. And the blame for that lays right at the feet of the state legislature, because if they can't it's hard to be a diamond in the middle of a cesspool, and you can't, if they can't do something to change that, what they're doing out there, then they're going to bring other people down with them. And that, I think our hard-fought, best in the country bond ratings may be a victim of that very thing, and it'd be a sad thing, I think, if that happens.
And we are still evaluated independently, individually, but it's the same environment that the state is dealing with, the same economy is affecting us as well, and so they're monitoring that to see how we're managing through that process. Right. So they do look at us independently, but I think it's really an issue of the same economic factors that influence the state also influence us.
Yeah. Right. Well, I think we're doing everything we can to avoid it, and I certainly hope we do, but it would not come as a complete shock, I think, to anybody to see a downgrade given the environment we're having to operate in.
But this rating is AAA for
yeah, no,
and so it'll be a year down the line, and based upon our best economic forecast, things should be, we hopefully be better as we go forward.
I did have a question about the dollar amount in this $90,500,000. Is that the maximum amount that could be issued at once we pass, if this is approved in GOs this year? Have we set a ceiling on it?
This allows us, this is the most we can issue at this time to keep our mill levy at 60.
Okay. So it's managing.
But if there was a decision made later to raise the mill levy, that number could be increased.
Yeah, and it'll change every year depending on the debt that's rolling off, on other factors of like the rates that we expect to get on the bond sale. There's just many other factors that are there, so it'll change every year, and we try to monitor that. If you just took this sale and said we're going to increase the mill levy, then yes, it would increase the amount we could sell.
Right. Well, would this vary by how long we chose the GOs to go for?
We have
this governs, the 16 governs, and that affects how long we go for. That's the cap on the 16, and then the fluctuation on the valuation of the property in the county, or in the city, all the property in the city in 3 counties, determines how then the end number, the variable that comes out is the length of the term.
I probably should understand it better given the amount of time I've had to try to figure it out, but if this current GO lasts for 5 years, give me the relationship between that $90,500,000 to the length of the bond issue. Is there any?
So when we
yes, but there's a lot of variables. The interest rate is a variable.
No,
the interest rate of the bonds.
I understand the interest rate part.
Yeah,
and our ratings have something to do with it also.
Yeah.
But
ratings drive the interest rate, and then when we sell the bonds, we'll know we're set, and with our best estimate of what the bonds will come in at with this rating, we believe that 90.5 million, or 90, is it
90,500,000.
Yeah, 90.5 million will be the maximum we can sell this year to keep our mill levy at 16.
Okay, it's an annual, this is an annual number then?
That's
yes,
right.
it changes every year.
Okay,
That's right.
thank you.
Craig, congratulations. Tell your staff thank you very much.
Yes, thank you all very much for your leadership.
Yeah, well, keeping that bond rating is a minor miracle, I think, in today's economic climate in the state. So we're very pleased. All right, we need have we voted on 9G? Okay, we need a motion on 9G then. All right, cast your votes. It passed unanimously. All right, item 9H is a public hearing regarding dilapidated structures. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9H? All right, how about a motion?
Move the items.
Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Item 9I is a public hearing regarding unsecured structures. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9I? All right, how about a motion? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9J is a public hearing regarding abandoned buildings. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9J? All right, how about a motion? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9K is a public hearing regarding removal of properties from the abandoned buildings list. Is there a motion here? All right, cast your votes on 9K, and it passes unanimously. On to item 9L, and this is an item that we've added an amendment, and Mark, I'll let you guide us through this. You probably want to vote on the amendment first and then on the resolution.
Yeah, yes, Your Honor. I wanted to thank staff for making this amendment. It's amending A4, which deals with groups that are trying to procure these special assessments that may not have funding, and that allows the City Council to have the option to waive that fee. And I think that's important, and I'm glad the amendment's there, and I'd move for its approval.
I got a question, though. With this in there, isn't every group that comes, we're going to want to have that fee waived?
There is that risk.
And so then it becomes, every time somebody wants to do an assessment, it becomes a political battle.
I would tell you, if you look at item 9N, which we're going to consider later, which is Clifford Farm subdivision that's trying to do one of these improvements, it's just a small HOA.
Right.
And it wouldn't have the funds to do it. And so the intent behind the amendment of A4 was to help small HOAs that don't have the money to make an amendment. But in this case, Clifford Farms needs this special assessment to deal with some water issues or a water line that needs to be delivered to their property. And so if you want to amend the language to tighten it up a little, I have no problem with that. But I don't want to hurt these small homeowners associations that need the improvements.
Yeah. No, well, I agree, raising it to $10,000 just to get the thing started is a lot of money for even a big HOA. But I just don't want to create a situation where we're creating a political battle every time somebody wants to create a new assessment district. So,
Well, I think one way you could deal with it, if you did want to amend it, and I would be responsive to your suggestion, to say that the petitioner would have to show financial necessity.
yeah.
I think one thing we shouldn't overlook, though, it's a benefit to the system. Every time one of these things comes online, the system benefits from them. It gets them off wells or off some other obscure way to put water in. It expands the size of the water system. I think there's a value to the city that's not captured by making them pay a $10,000 fee or something to do it.
It's beyond water.
It covers
Street
streets, too,
assessment district.
Right. But
I can tell you,
anything.
Pete, we looked at it when I was the president of the homeowners association. We looked at it for traffic control. And if there would have been a $10,000 fee, there's no way the HOA could have done that.
Right.
They just didn't have the money. And so I just want to protect the small person.
Right. And some of them are very small. Some of these have 8, 10 homes in them.
Is there a way that the fee could be rolled into the district, into the assessment? so that rather than pay that fee up front, it could be captured?
I think one of the toughest things about that is, Meg, is that you've got to get that 50% vote of a homeowners association, and the higher the price, the more difficult it is to get people to vote for it. And I've seen HOAs have difficulty in reaching that 50% level. And so I would say that if they can prove financial necessity, we ought to just waive the $10,000. If there's they have the inability to pay the fee.
Or what if there was a way that we could do it where the fee gets returned if they actually go forward? Because if they actually go forward and complete is there any way of doing that?
But some HOAs don't have $10,000.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, and so they can't even apply at that point. And so if you want to amend A4 to say, but you must make a showing of financial necessity, I'd welcome that amendment.
I would second that amendment, that we require that there be financial necessity.
Can we go ahead
I'm
and
good with
move
that.
forward, Jim, and make that amendment at this time?
You can.
Okay. I'd move for that amendment.
All right, you got that, Francis? Yeah. All right. All right, we're voting on the amendment. This is item 9L1. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Now the resolution.
Move the item.
Okay, we're voting on item 9L2. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Thanks for your work on that, Mark. Item 9M is some changes in police policy, and Chief City's here.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. We're changing a couple of things. One policy is procedural justice, but we're doing a lot of things in procedural justice and training, fairness in policing, a lot of the things right now, best practices. This is basically a policy that states this is our philosophy from now on. A fair way of policing, procedural justice, judicial reform, those types of things that we're going to support and try to put into our policies and train to meet best practices in how we treat the public and the way we do policing. So that's what that basically states. And
What prompted this, Chief?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things nationally that have prompted it. You know, Ferguson is the biggie, is the big one. So, but there's things that I think our department. I mean, I've always said I'm lucky as police chief because we've had chiefs previously that have been very progressive, that have really been way ahead of the game on these. So we've always had that tradition, that history of doing this. This basically says that we're going to formalize it. This is going to be our philosophy from here on out. De-escalation training, some of those things now that are really the new way of doing policing. Body-worn cameras, part of procedural justice. It's a new way of doing things and a fair way of doing things and handling our public. So,
okay.
But there's a lot of things. And then the second one is records 720. This is basically just cleanup language. It words things a lot better. There's not a lot of difference in how we release things. It just cleans up the language. It talks about collision reports, criminal records, those types of things will be released. And like I say, most of it's just making the language better and more clear.
Chief, in M2, I was just a little concerned about the language that says when it's in the best intent of the community. You know, I don't know whether that's legal language or if that is.
Which one are you talking about?
This is in the cleanup of some of the language.
Oh, in records?
That we're talking about in 720. Mm-hmm. And it just says that, you know, the revisions, it would also permit the chief to release investigative records when in the best interest of the community. And that seemed like a kind of a big burden to put you under.
Well, the reality is I already have that burden, and I've had it for a long time because we have made decisions that we don't have to release according to state law, but when it's a big issue, a use of force, where maybe we've had a fatality, some of those types of things, the community's interest far outweighs our need to keep that where we don't release it. Their interest far outweighs that.
As long as it's something that you sort of are used to working within,
right.
I understand.
We've been doing that for a long time. We're formalizing it now and putting it in the procedure.
Well, I'd move approval on M1.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll first vote on 9M1. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Then a motion on 9M2. All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Thanks, Chief. Item 9N is a resolution that would create a water improvement district for the Clifford Farms subdivision. This is up in Ward 8. Mark?
Yes, I met with this association and they were having some water. There we go. I'm sorry. Need a lot of help today. I'm so sorry.
Got Colorado?
I'm trying to go on vacation. That's what I'm thinking about. Sorry. At any rate, I met with the homeowners association and a really good group of people, and they're having some issues with water, and they want to assess themselves for a water main. There's no protest to this. I'd move the item.
All right, we're voting on item 9N. Anyone here hoping to speak on this item? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9O, understand we do not need executive session, so just a motion to approve would be in order. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9P, understand we do not need executive session, so a motion to approve would be fine. Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 9Q, understand we do need executive session, so a motion to move that into executive session. Cast your votes. And that item moves into executive session. Item 9R is claims recommended for denial. Is there anyone here hoping to speak under any item listed under 9R? All right, how about a motion? Cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 10A is claims recommended for approval. How about a motion on item 10A? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. Item 11 is items from council, and this first item here is before us for the third time, so today is a final hearing, and Councilman White was the lead sponsor on this. Do you want to make a motion? All right, anyone here hoping to speak on item 11A? All right, cast your votes. It passes unanimously. And now we'll go around the horseshoe for any other comments. James?
I had a question about the upcoming bond issue. Do we have a time frame on when we're going to get a more finalized list, or when we can discuss individual items that are going to get put on the bond issue? Or
Great question. Based upon, we had 10 neighborhood meetings on the bond issues. They're complete. We got a lot of input at that point in time, and so that along with the internet surveys that were completed, planning is going through that and doing an analysis with that. And at that time, I've directed staff to pick a couple of scenarios for council, whether it's a 16 mills at 10 years or whatever they are, and try to come up with a list that might match one of those. We're not trying to presuppose anything. We're trying to put and bring some lists to council for their consideration to go forward. We do have a workshop scheduled in April on this issue, and those lists will be to council prior to that workshop.
Okay, great, thanks.
All right, Ed?
On a similar line, I just want to basically float an idea or proposal. In addition to the GO bond election in September, we also have the MAPS tax expiring at the end of the year. My understanding from Kenny is that if we wanted to continue that tax, we would have to give the tax commission 90 days notice or 3 months notice, so you'd have to put it on the September ballot. That's less than 6 months away. It seems like we should initiate that conversation. So I'd like to just float a proposal. It has 3 very simple, straightforward changes with that 1 cent sales tax. I've floated it to the leadership of AFSCME and IAFF and FOP, and I appreciate Mark Nelson being here this morning. Neighborhood leaders, those organizing the maps for neighborhoods, Sierra Club, transit advocates. At a minimum, everybody's very open to the idea and eager to continue the conversation. And I think that it has the potential to kind of create kind of the coalitions that previous maps have brought together, which resulted in their passage. We've talked about kind of a temporary placeholder maps maybe this time for 2 or 3 or a shorter period of time for neighborhoods. And I just want to float something that I think would help basically every neighborhood in all parts of the city. But what's striking in running it past people is there's this central premise of it seems to catch people off guard, and they seem surprised, even people who've been working with the city for decades. And to explain that, I know the council knows this, but just for completeness, I want to, as we were talking about before, we're the only state in America that the legislature restricts our major source of revenue to sales tax. There's actually excuse me, there's actually 17 states where cities are restricted to one source of revenue. It's just that Oklahoma is the only state where that one source of revenue is sales tax. So unlike county and school districts in Oklahoma, we are not allowed to access property tax for operations. We can only do it to create a sinking fund, and then just for two things: to pay off principal and interest on a GO bond, and to pay off principal and interest if we have a judgment against us from a court. So as the system was originally envisioned, you had capital investments on the GO bond, and you had sales tax to pay for operations and maintenance. The original Cox Convention Center, for example, was paid for with a GO bond. If you think about it, every MAPS project, every MAPS 3 project could be put on a GO bond. The convention center, the streetcar, the downtown park, the senior wellness centers, trails, sidewalks, event center, the fairgrounds, you could do all that through the GO bond if you had something transformational. Can you go to the next one, Boyd? So what we have currently is we have 4.5 pennies for the state. So we basically are operating at 3.875. The last time that we had a allocation for the city's general fund, which we're now at 2 pennies, was 1976, so about 40 years ago. Same thing for Tulsa. And then you had 2 initiative petitions. You had an initiative petition that created 3/4 of a penny for public safety, and then 1/8 of a cent for the Oklahoma City Zoo. And then you have the 1 cent MAPS tax, bringing you to 3.875. But if you consider, and that actually has been decreasing to when this system was created 40 years ago, because 40 years ago you had 6 sales tax exemptions, now you have more than 140. So in relative terms, we're decreasing over time. But I think the part that catches people off guard is that if you eliminate the 1 cent that's being reserved for the MAPS fund, it's being reserved for capital expenditures and separate from the general fund. Boyd, can you go to the next one? Is that basically now we're doing our operations and maintenance with 2.875%. And if you look at all the cities in Oklahoma, there's really nobody trying to run their operations and maintenance of their city on less than 3 pennies. Certainly no large cities or even medium-sized. You might find a very, very, very small. But no one is doing less than 3 pennies. That makes Oklahoma City an outlier. And I think we have to ask ourselves, why are we an outlier? And why are we operating or trying to provide city services at such a rate that's so much lower than virtually every other municipality in Oklahoma? It would be one thing if we were able to provide all city services and we weren't struggling. But last July, we had a 5.5% across the board reduction. We had to have an extra 1.25% reduction in January. This July, we're looking at another 4% across the board. Every department getting hit again. 109 positions funded out of the general fund that are going to be gone in FY17 versus FY16. We all agree that we need a couple hundred more police officers, but we're never going to get them at this rate. We just will not. There is no mechanism without additional sales tax revenue to meet that stated policy goal of the council. We can't fund the 3 fire stations or we can't staff the 3 fire stations that we are building. We're the largest city in America without Sunday public transit. The fact that we don't run public transit on Sunday means we won't be able to run the streetcar, our $110 million investment, on Sundays, or else it would be a slam dunk Title VI lawsuit against us. We can cut the grass in our parks department, but we don't have the money for special amenities. When Doug Cupper was in the Wichita Parks Department, they had a partnership between the Parks Department and the Police Department. And they had all kinds of amenities in the summer, and they decreased their youth crime by 33%. And the police chief got an international award, and that's been replicated in cities throughout the United States and Europe, and it's been shown. But we don't have the money to do that, and there's a cost to us to not being able to do that. We don't have the money for the MAPS programs that are coming online, $4.5 million for the streetcar a year, the downtown park, which is $3 million or however much. That money is not there. And these things are coming at us. We have this tsunami of O&M coming at us, and we don't have the money for it. So here's a proposal. One would be you take a quarter of the penny and you just give a tax deduction to the people. They deserve it. A sales tax is a regressive tax. We have all these sales tax exemption, but we still have the poor and everyone paying sales tax on grocery. So just give everybody a tax decrease, which would increase, I think, support for the measure, and the people deserve it. Second is create your 3/4 of a penny public safety tax and make it a penny. Then all of a sudden you have the money for police and fire staffing needs. And make it very specific that it's only for salaries, only for personnel, not for radios or things that we have to fight about like we have fought over the last 20 years with our public safety fund, but make it very specific that we want it for the police officers and firefighters to staff those stations. So that leaves you with half a penny. Take that make that one permanent, the public safety. Now you have half a penny. If we're going to do something temporary, do a temporary 2, 3, 4 years, whatever, where that money goes into the general fund for O&M. And all of a sudden we reverse all these budget cuts, we restore our departments, we're able to do proactive things instead of reactive things. We're able to have Sunday public service, parks amenities, fix the potholes. I think a lot of people forget with streets that capital is widening or resurfacing, but the actual fixing the 90,000 potholes a year, that's operations and maintenance dollars, and that comes from sales tax. And then reassess where we are in 3 years. Does the Amazon stuff mean stuff? Is the decrease in sales tax, is that the new normal, or are we going to reverse like Russell Evans suggests? And then in 3 years we can reevaluate. But I think that if we were going to do like a maps for neighborhoods, I think that's the way you make the greatest impact in virtually every neighborhood in Oklahoma City immediately. And then we could reassess in 3 years. That's a proposal. I appreciate Mark here. I hope that everybody, I'm sure, has ideas of what they'd like to see. I hope everybody can speak with Mark and John George at FAP, with the firefighters, AFSCME, who I think are very eager to discuss this, and we get the conversation going. Thanks.
Have some ideas on that, but I want to wait until Ward 4 gets seated with a new council person. I don't think it's fair that Ward 4 had represented when we have the conversation. So, not that P didn't represent it, but the fact that there's a new person coming in, I think it's only fair to wait.
It's already happened. It happened.
Yeah. You're a ghost already.
Happened. It's already. Well, what I was going to say, I think I'm not quite sure I understand all the details as it's presented here, because it didn't present a lot of details. But I do think that faced with what we are likely to expect, that will probably harm us rather than help us out of the legislature, it is time for us to seek innovative ways to do this. I think we're really on our own, and I think that's an idea like this is worthy of looking at, because I think we're going to have to do it ourselves. It's not going to, help's not going to come from anywhere, especially not from 23rd and Lincoln. I think it just deserves a real long, hard look at innovative ideas to find it. The O&M piece, I think, is what really has caught us. I couldn't agree more that what we've done with maps could always have been done with geos, probably wouldn't have always passed if we'd have tried to do it that way. And I don't think we need to throw the maps brand away, but I do think some innovation in how we use the funds that we can raise through that brand is well long overdue to do that. All right. Larry's not here, so I thought I would talk about a neighborhood meeting that I attended this week, or last week. I attended a meeting of the Draper Lane Neighborhood Association, and every member, I believe, of the association was there. They didn't feed me. They did offer donuts, which I turned down, but I didn't have to take my wife, or we didn't go to dinner. But very interesting group of people. They live right off Draper Drive, very close to the lake itself. Very, very, very interested in what happens at Lake Draper. So I'm hoping that my predecessor will care as much about what happens at the lake as I have over the time. But they were very, they live on a private road. Their access is right on Draper Drive. It comes right off of East Draper Drive into their neighborhood, 5-acre tract neighborhood. I think one of the Water Trust employee's aunt hosted it, so she knew more about me than I had hoped people would know this late in the game. But it was very good. But since Larry's not here, I thought I need to fill that in.
I got a comment about Ed's idea. The thing that I liked the most about what he said was that we all agree on the 200. We need 200 more police officers. Yet, I think all of us would probably agree that there's not a real plan for that to actually come to fruition. And so, I think if we need to at least take this opportunity with the GEO bond, that the new training facility is probably going to be on the bond, which is one of the biggest aspects of getting enough police officers trained. But as far as funding those 200 officers, I don't see how we can do that unless something changes. So as just a general idea, as an overarching idea, an idea that would make that happen, I would be in favor of. I don't know exactly the details of how that would actually happen. So that was one of my main comments.
All right. David?
No, thank you.
All right, Meg?
Just two quick things. I wanted to congratulate Ballet Oklahoma on the acquisition of their fabulous new building. It's going to be great for the arts in Oklahoma. And I wanted to thank the Boys and Girls Club for inviting me to come down to Santa Fe Charter School. Jane and her organization are doing such great things down there. And we heard from parents who said that the Boys and Girls Club have just changed the lives of their kids and their families. And they are doing so much at that little charter school with so little. The library is in an old girl's locker room. It's just phenomenal. They've made 4 classrooms out of an indoor basketball court. And, you know, it is just incredible, and the Boys and Girls Club is a big part of it.
Mayor, Meg's comments reminded me a week prior to that meeting, they had a similar one at Cesar Chavez Elementary School. And Meg's correct. The thing that struck me is we had a dozen, more so, I mean, we just ran out of time, of children coming forward to explain how having the Boys and Girls Club facility on site and the interaction with the director of that facility, with the students, with the teachers, and then getting the teachers to volunteer after school at the location. Those kids would get up every morning wanting to go to school. And I think that's the key to be successful in education, is to get the children to want to attend school. And if they can do that at Cesar Chavez, which has a number of challenges, not to list them all, we could all do that in our own minds, to get the students there wanting to go to school, I'd say let's find a way to get a facility in every elementary school in Oklahoma City, and then after that, work to get one at every middle school. Those 2 schools alone, one's a charter, Santa Fe South, one's a public school, both in challenging areas, and the Boys and Girls Club facility on-site, not a off-site, but on-site, has made a significant difference, and the children want to be there, and the parents, especially at Cesar Chavez, feel their children now have a chance in life that they wouldn't otherwise. Anyway, thank you.
Meg?
Mayor, let me comment on it. I think we probably have more partners out there right now for programs just like that than we've ever had in the history of the city. I mean, the Police Athletic League is flourishing. The Boys and Girls Clubs that already exist are flourishing. I think I-89 is absolutely willing to do it. They feel very obligated to do it. Fields and Futures is coming into city schools all over the metro area doing things. I think if we don't take advantage of all those potential partners that weren't there 20 years ago, we're making a big mistake. I think today we have an opportunity that is just unprecedented in the history of this city for partners to do all this stuff. So I think we ought to do it while we can. And putting some of it perhaps in the GO bond issue might not be a bad idea, trying to figure out a way to work it in there somehow for a couple of schools or 2 or 3 schools or whatever we can do. I know the relationship between I-89 and Maps for Kids isn't what I would have liked for it to be, but perhaps we can learn from some of the things that we did during Maps for Kids and clean up some of those problems that came up. But I think it's time to do it.
Okay. Meg? All right. Mark?
On February 28th, we had the ribbon cutting for the new Wellness Center. The turnout was incredible. There must have been 200 or 300 people there. The facility is magnificent. I want everybody to remember that if you call 773-6910, you can sign up for a membership. It is anticipated that the first opening date will be March the 20th, and so they are right now having tours daily that you can go tour the facility. Please call 773-6910 to confirm the opening date and to join.
Yeah. Was a nice day out there. All right, city manager reports.
I'm pleased to have Chief Bryant with us this morning. He's got an exciting presentation.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager, Mayor, Council. Good to be with you this morning. As some of you are aware, periodically that we are evaluated by the insurance services offices and assigned a public protection classification that impacts insurance rates here, property insurance rates here in the city. So we were recently evaluated last year, and we recently received our new classification. So I'm here this morning to present that to you. Just as a brief kind of explanation of what the ISO, or the Insurance Services Office, is all about. They are an independent company that provides information about community risk. They do that by collecting and evaluating communities' information on their structure fire suppression capabilities. That data is analyzed to determine a community's public protection classification, or what we refer to as a PPC. As again, that PPC grade is a number 1 through 10, so less is better. 1 represents the highest grade or rating that they would give, and 10 obviously it would be the lowest. So Class 1 represents an exemplary fire suppression program, and again, a Class 10 is basically that you don't meet the minimum criteria of their rating system. So why is the ISO PPC so important? A community's investment in fire protection is a proven and reliable predictor of future fire losses. So the statistical data that is gathered on insurance losses kind of bears out that relationship between excellent fire protection, meaning we minimize property loss to the greatest extent we can, and again, that is measured by that PPC. And again, we, like I say, one of our biggest performance measures is to contain fires to the room of origin, or so we don't lose an entire property. Insurance companies and insurance carriers use that PPC classification for marketing, underwriting, establishing fair premiums for the communities, both for homeowners, residential, and commercial properties. And in general, and we'll talk more about this here in a minute, but in general, the price of insurance, the rates and premiums that you pay in a community with a very good rating is generally lower, and substantially lower in some cases, than a community with a higher or poor PPC grade. Again, assuming that all things are equal. And that most insurance carriers, again, including the largest ones, use that information as part of their decision making. Again, it is a one factor, and when they determine insurance premiums and rates for homeowners and, again, commercial property owners. Other factors are the city's loss history and those types of things. So just to give you an idea of what the evaluation criteria is, 10% of it is emergency communications. As you know, we've upgraded the city's emergency communications in the city over the years. We now do that out of the Emergency Communications Center over there, where we co-located all the public safety dispatch operations over there. just the system itself. We've made major upgrades to in terms of software and things of that nature. Training, the way we train our dispatchers has a bearing on this rating under emergency communications. 40% of the evaluation has to do with the city's water supply. A lot of data goes into that. I can't stress that, how important that is. In fact, really, it's you can see, that, again, given it 40% of the overall rating. And to be honest, in the past especially, that's been a challenge to us. But we've done some things, especially in the outlying areas, to compensate for that by the use of our heavy tanker operations and so forth, where we have demonstrated the ability to provide a continuous supply of water during firefighting operations.
But the water department has also upgraded a lot of areas over the last several years. We used to have problems getting water to the west part of town or to the northwest part of town. We didn't have adequate storage in some areas. We've added some ground storage, and we've added some more pumpage, which is important during fires because it's about that peak fire flow you can get. It isn't about annual water usage or daily. It's peak fire usage, and they've added some things to supplement, support, add to areas where they've been a little bit deficient, particularly in the western part of the city.
Which has certainly been helpful. And again, a lot of data on the water supply part of this evaluation is collected. Very time-consuming, very labor-intensive process to gather that data. And then the fire department itself is 50% of the overall rating. And again, a lot goes into that, the number of resources, the location of those resources. Actually, the number of buildings they look at, so a lot of information. The training programs that our firefighters participate in on a daily basis are all factored into that aspect of the rating. And I just wanted to stop there for a second and say this is one of the important aspects, as far as I'm concerned, of our LFR program, Leading for Results, and the data that we collect in that program. Not only do we communicate that to you and citizens on occasion, to give everybody an idea of how well we're performing and meeting our goals and targets. But having that information available and the way we collect that now makes this type of process a little bit easier. It's still somewhat, again, labor intensive, but having that information now and the way that we collect it makes it more usable for us. So a good positive aspect of that program as far as this rating is concerned. So a little bit of the history. Ever since I've been on this department, 35 years now, we've been at a 3. And probably, I would say, a lot of people would say that's not bad for a city our size. So in areas, especially in the core areas of the city, where a resident or a building is within 5 miles of a fire station and about 1,000 feet from the closest water source, that being a hydrant, that's been a 3, and it has been that way forever. And while we thought that that was pretty decent, we also thought that it would be very, very difficult for us to move off of that 3. As some of you remember, the last rating we did in 2012, we didn't change the 3, but in the outlying areas of the city, not covered by fire hydrants, we actually improved that quite a bit from a 9 to a 5 because of our ability, again, with our heavy tanker vehicles, to provide a continuous fire flow of 250 gallons a minute. So last time we did make some pretty decent improvement, and we were excited about that. Well, today I am proud to stand here and tell you that our most recent evaluation, we were graded at an ISO Class 1.
Great.
So again, something I've never seen in this city's history. As far as we're concerned, a really significant thing and a pretty big deal. So again, a lot of work went into that, and again, I think it's certainly an indication and a product of this community and our citizens' investment in public safety and especially fire protection.
Chief, if you had to pick one factor, what would it be? How have we improved?
Well, I think the water, again, availability of water, some improvements, as Mr. Couch pointed out, on our water delivery and distribution system. I think one big factor from the last rating to this is we opened up that additional station out southwest, Station 26. I think that had a huge impact on that. They told us at the time, because we were building that station then, they said, as soon as you get that built, let us know and we'll see if we can, you know, alter your rating. So that came at this time. And so again, the number of resources out there and so forth, we've actually, you know, added over the years. So again, just the increase in the number of resources. I think the way we train our firefighters now and the way we document that training certainly went into it. Again, the water's a big part of it, the improvement in our emergency communication. So all that together, we improved in all three of those evaluation criteria categories.
Does that one apply to the outlying areas with no hydrant also?
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So not only so this Class 1 represents buildings that are within 5 miles of a fire station and within 1,000 feet of a water source, so the hydranted areas of the city. In those outlying areas, the non-hydranted areas, again, our last evaluation, we improved that significantly. We even improved that down to a 4 this time, so we went from a 5 to a 4 in that category. So even some improvement in the outlying areas as well. How do we compare? This gives you an example, and this is from ISO's website, of over 46,000 communities nationally that they have evaluated. We are in that top 241 now, so you can see that very few communities and cities get to Class 1. It's not an easy thing to do. And I wanted to point that out. And I would tell you that based on my associations in the industry, probably even more difficult it is for a metropolitan-sized city like us to get to that Class 1 rating. You see it more in medium to smaller-sized cities. And with that, I'd just like to, there's a look at our committee members. A lot of them on my staff. Again, a lot of time and effort goes into this. It's not a easy or a quick process. And there they all are, and some of them are with me today, bravely sitting in the back of the room like they normally do. But did want to point out a couple of people. Battalion Chief Larry Hansen was somewhat the lead for our staff. He's not here today, but he kind of took the lead in organizing and getting all through this. I did want to also make mention of Deputy Chief Kelly Sawyers, our fire marshal for the city, and that this is something that over the years and past evaluations and so forth, she's been intimately involved in as the fire marshal. And this is probably a nice send-off for her as she'll be retiring at the end of this month. And so I know she's happy about this as well, and I think it's very fitting that, again, as much work as she's put into this over the years that we get to that point right before her retirement. Also like to make mention of some of our non-fire department or non-committee members that also provided help and expertise. Obviously, Chris Browning, our utilities director, and his staff. Again, a lot of work has to be done. A lot of data has to be looked at and processed, and especially Rachel Pierce with the water department. She's a civil engineer in the water department. And also Major Kevin Stoneking, who's one of our retirees, but now works for the Oklahoma Insurance Department as their ISO coordinator. Previously, on our last rating, when we made that big improvement out in the outlying areas, Kevin was very, very much a key factor in that, and as he demonstrated through our tanker shuttle operations that we could provide that continuous water supply in those areas. And now he does this type of work and consults with other departments all over the state for their ISO ratings as well. And with that, I'd like to bring Kevin up. I think he has a presentation he would like to make to you, Mayor, and the council. And with him today is Ken Stoops and Phil Bradley with the ISO.
Okay.
Mayor, that's a pretty big meeting. We get a AAA bond rating and a #1 ISO rating at one at one council meeting. That's a pretty big accomplishment.
I'd like to thank y'all for giving me the opportunity to recognize my old home team, that's, I'm really honored to be a part of this and to recognize tremendous accomplishment by the city of Oklahoma City. I'm representing Oklahoma Insurance Department and Commissioner John Doe. So I do have a citation I'd like to present to you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas the city of Oklahoma City has achieved a public protection classification 1, representing superior property fire protection, and whereas the city of Oklahoma City has shown exceptional dedication to community through service, education, and security, whereas the Oklahoma City Fire Department has proven that professionalism, bravery, and commitment to public service can lead to tremendous accomplishments, and whereas the Oklahoma City Fire Department provides exemplary protection to citizens of Oklahoma City and mutual aid to other local fire departments, Oklahoma Insurance Commissioner John Doak, on behalf of the Oklahoma Insurance Department, finds this most appropriate occasion to bestow sincere congratulations to the city of Oklahoma City. Now therefore, Oklahoma Insurance Commissioner John Doak extends to the city of Oklahoma City sincere recognition and directs that this citation of congratulations be presented. So,
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you. Congratulations. Yeah, well, obviously, the council has made a commitment to have the capital resources necessary. Water Trust is obviously very much a part of this. But how does this break down for the individual citizen of Oklahoma City? What's the real benefit to the citizen of Oklahoma City who hears about it?
as Chief Bryant touched on, the increased fire protection, proven, third-party outside, based on national standards, mostly NFPA, but there's others. It does affect insurance rates. I am unable to give you a hard, fast number on what this is going to mean.
But undoubtedly, insurance rates will go down in the Oklahoma City area.
We would hope so. And again, that's all I pointed out. Generally speaking, cities with that lower ISO classification see lower insurance rates. We can't guarantee that, obviously. That's ultimately up to the carriers and the companies. We would hope that they would use that information. And the thing that I would tell our citizens is that as they look at their policies, and they're maybe about to renew their policy, that they speak to their carrier about that, make sure that they're aware of it, and hopefully the carrier works with them. And, you know, if that's not the case, then maybe then they need to speak to other carriers and see if they could get some credit for that.
All right. Well, please thank Commissioner Doak for us.
Can I add one more piece? Absolutely. My name is Philip Bradley. I am with ISO, Insurance Services Office, and this is a huge accomplishment for everybody. Chief Bryant stole almost all of my thunder. We talk about the fire department, the water department, communications, but this isn't just a fire department scorecard. This is the entire community's efforts. And I think you touched on the fact that the mayor and city council had a large role in this, because without your support and the funding that you provided, I don't think we'd be having this opportunity. But we also have added in risk reduction, where we evaluate the fire prevention code enforcement, public fire safety education programs, fire investigations. This is a total community-wide effort towards fire protection capabilities. That being said, when we get a community that has a class 1, we like to make a big deal out of it. So this is probably the most fun part of my job to come out. Sometimes I get to tell people that they're not the class 1, and that's not nearly as enjoyable. I have a copy of your notification letter and all the answers to the different questions of how your community was provided I'd like to present you with.
Thank you very much.
I would like to talk a little bit about the insurance rates. We transitioned in the grading schedule in 2012, and when we did that transition, most of we're kind of still in a transition mode, and it's not really easy to pinpoint a number that your community is going to drop this, or your property is going to drop this by this percentage at this point. We'll probably get there in a couple of years after we've had some experience with it. Generally speaking, better fire protection correlates to lower losses. Lower losses correlate to lower insurance premiums. So in a broad sense, you can see the direction. This is going to be a tremendous accomplishment. And then in addition to the individual insurance premiums reduction, there's also the underwriting aspect of it. Companies that have a large pool of risk to take on, they're more comfortable taking those risks in communities that provide better fire protection. And so you'll see that rates will go down because there'll be more competition in your city for the insurance premium dollars. And then in addition to that, I think this will interest everybody here. A lot of communities are marketing their class ones because it makes it more appealing to industry that wants to come to your community. We're providing good fire protection. So if you do have an event, there's a chance that you'll have better fire protection and lower insurance rates with it. And so a lot of industry is taking that into consideration when they're relocating the city. So this is a really big deal. I want to thank you for allowing me to come here and participate in it.
You're welcome anytime you have news this good. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks to all of you, and congratulations to the
Mayor?
council and the fire chief. Yes.
Mayor, before you, since 40% of this is based on water, I'd like to recognize that Chris and key members of the water department staff in the back for their contribution to this. I know half of it's fire, and you guys are well deserved, but that 40% that is based on our water system, some of these guys need accolades for that too, because there's been a lot of hard work has gone into putting the system together the way it is.
Absolutely. How about a round of applause for the Water Trust? All right, and we do have one citizen who signed up to speak about city manager reports. Michael Washington? And Michael, you will need to restrict these comments to the content that is in city manager reports.
Thank you. Again, my name is Michael C. Washington, Executive Director of Empower People, Inc., where our motto is change your world and your world will change around you. I decided to come in to speak today regarding this presentation presented by the fire chief who just left. I must say that I'm very impressed deeply in what he had to offer, as well as the other gentlemen who were here to present their side of the various topics. Regarding the insurance, however, I'm kind of concerned about this sudden leap from a class 3, which is something I was totally taken aback by, because again, I wasn't aware this was going to happen. However, I don't have all the information regarding it, I will be asking them for it. I do like the fact that, according to the gentleman who just spoke before he left, that this insurance rating will have something to do with an appealing process to industry that may want to come in from outside and bring companies in, and that's great. And let me also give high honor and deep respect to the fire departments around Oklahoma City, because once again, I cannot be a hater but a congratulator in that regard, because on many occasions, I've just deliberately sat back and witnessed just to say, let's see how much time responses were going to be or what have you. And I noticed, like he said, that he definitely improved, especially on the northeast side of Oklahoma City, and which, in fact, I did write letters in that regard to the fire departments in that respect. I've also noticed, too, that they're there when IMSA is around. They are actually following on. Yeah, sometimes it actually beat them there. So again, we have to give credit where credit is due. Some of you might say, oh, man, this is a different part of Michael Washington we're seeing, but nah. If you do something great, Mike Washington's going to give it back. And also, like I said, he was telling me that I just noticed he said that they went to a grading system in 2012, which is something interesting to me. Again, I don't have much information in which to give my true and unbiased opinion regarding that part. However, I will ask for some information further on that. Again, lastly, Mayor, and I know my time is winding down, we want to thank the city of Oklahoma City, and actually you being recognized for the great work in that respect in the presentation. And again, and we hope that process can continue. And in that regard, I think at this point I will conclude that message. Again, we just thank you people for giving me an opportunity to stand up today and give my opinion of this committee meeting today. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Michael. All right. Anything else under city manager reports? No. All right. Citizens to be heard. We have a couple that have signed up. Michael? No, this is a, oh, is this, is that?
Michael Washington.
Oh, this is Michael Washington. Okay, yeah. Michael, go ahead and start your comments.
I just want to, again, my name is Michael Washington. I just recently momentarily spoke. I am deeply, again, now we want to turn a different page and get back to things as usual.
All right, Michael, you have 3 minutes to make it.
I understand. Well, last week, actually the week before last, I had actually signed up to speak before the council members regarding a couple of issues that were on the item agenda, and it was denied that process. I actually spoke to Mr. Kenneth Jordan there, who is the municipal councilor for this esteemed committee and chambers, and regarding not being allowed to speak. And I was told by himself, as well as the city's police chief, as well as the assistant municipal councilor, Richard Smith, that anything I had to speak about, that I would have to speak it during citizens to be heard. However, according to the second page of this formal agenda for the city of Oklahoma City, it states, I know I don't have time, I'm getting ready to read this, citizens may address the city council during public hearings on any agenda item, such as dilapidated housing, planning, and zoning decisions, but all comments must be relevant to the item. Citizens may also address the council on individual concerns at the end of the agenda when the mayor announces citizens to be heard. Now, in that respect and regard, it clearly tells me that someone here in this chamber was in error by telling Michael Washington that you could not speak on the items that were on the floor, but that I had to basically use my time frame, which is 3 minutes for citizens to be heard, to talk about what was said previous to that time. We know that that's not in any way possible, that I could possibly do that within that 3-minute mode. The purpose of transparency here in the state of Oklahoma, then, is so that people can come out and voice their opinions while everyone is present and prior to them leaving, so that they can also understand themselves and not be blindsided that there is someone who may not or may accept what they have to offer to this esteemed council member and mayor, so forth and so on. So again, I do not take happiness or pleasure in being denied that right, because that's a basic flagrant discrimination. It's a blatant due process violation, because as a citizen of the state of Oklahoma, I have a right to be fairly treated as any other citizen here in the state of Oklahoma, and I will demand that I be given that respect. Now, again, it is only because of my independence and separation of opinions maybe offered by others that I'm not well liked. And again, we're not in here for popularity contest, because I don't believe that's necessary. But I will say in closing that in the future, if I sign up, I would like to be recognized as anyone else. And I will not, nor will I ever side with someone if I think something or situation or condition is not proper for me to do so. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and y'all, everyone have a great day. Thank you.
All right. All right, Rick Kane.
Good morning. I'm Rick Kane, 1504 Breckenridge Drive, zip code 73013. I'm here this morning to say thank you to you, Councilman White, for your service, not only for the citizens of Oklahoma City, but I think when one considers your role as chairman of the Oklahoma City Water Utility Trust, that your impact goes far beyond the boundaries of Oklahoma City. But I want to talk a little bit this morning about your contributions to public transportation. When I heard that you weren't going to be running for re-election, I started thinking about the years that we worked together. And it was in 2008 that I think we had one of those aha moments that significantly impacted public transportation in Oklahoma City. For those of you who were serving on council at the time, you might remember that we had the very first City Council public transportation workshop. We had the meeting at the education building on the Oklahoma City Zoo grounds. We covered a number of topics that morning, but one in particular sticks with me. We were talking about what makes for a good public transportation system. And we looked at three variables, or three attributes of a system. One was service area, the second was frequency, and the last was hours of operation. And during that discussion, Pete, you asked the question, what could we do to make our transit system better, given consideration for the limited funding that was available at the time? And we focused on frequency. And from your urging, that next fiscal year, we actually received additional monies from City Council so that we were able to increase frequency on 2 routes. We understood that that was a trial program. It was only going to last 1 year, but that program was so successful that the following fiscal year, additional monies were made available to increase frequency on 2 more routes. And then in 2013, the consulting firm of Nelson Nygaard completed a study of the entire system. And coming out of that study, we saw enhancements to not only our service area, but we increased frequency on nearly every bus route that we had. I think most recently, we've seen the addition of night service, and we've seen Embark introduce the Hall Pass program, which is a program to help Oklahoma City Public School students get to and from school. And I know that it was Pete's participation on the committee, the Cooperative Joint Task Force Committee between the City of Oklahoma City and the Oklahoma City Public School System that really brought that to fruition. So in closing, Pete, I want to thank you for being a champion for public transportation and for your friendship. But I really feel I'd be remiss having this opportunity to stand before you if I didn't also thank City Manager Jim Couch and former Assistant City Manager Jim Thompson and the current Assistant City Manager Laura Johnson for their support, for the COTPA Board of Trustees, which Councilman Greenwell now serves on, and to you, Mayor, and to you, Council, on both an individual and also a collective basis for your support in moving public transportation forward. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Rick. Nice way to end this part of the council meeting. And we have executive session. We'll be back.